3 years ago this week, Russia invaded Ukraine. After more than 1,000 days defending their country and culture, what's been helping Ukrainians fight on? I'm Annelies Borges, and this is The Stream.
Hi everyone, this is Kadi Bostani. Today I am recording a choir from Ukraine. They told me we can do the session, but we have to hurry up because maybe after 2 hours they will shut down the electricity.
When conflict strikes, lives are upended, torn apart, cut short. Ukrainians know that all too well. Since Russia's invasion 3 years ago, they've had to change plans, abandon projects, and reinvent themselves many times over. Some have been able to use their art to cope and even inspire others to carry on. And we will focus on their stories today. Joining us for that, we have Vik Bakin, a photographer and visual artist, joining us from Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Irina Lobanok, a sound producer and singer, with us today from Lviv. Also in Lviv, Yulia Martin, a music therapist, and Olya Fedorova, a conceptual artist from Kharkiv in the east of Ukraine, who's joining us from Graz in Austria. Thank you so much for your time today. Before we start the conversation, here are some figures to put this war into context. Since the start of the war in February 2022, the United Nations says almost 12,000 Ukrainian civilians have been killed, including 622 children. 28,000 people have reportedly been injured, but the UN has specified that the real number of casualties could be much higher. The war has also caused massive displacement. 1/3 of Ukrainians have been forced to flee their homes, with at least 3.7 million currently displaced within the country and more than 6.7 million abroad. Those numbers paint a very grim picture, obviously, a picture that you all know too well. Can I also start by asking you what these past 3 years have meant to each one of you at a personal level? Olya, if I could start with you.
Yes, it's first of all, thank you for letting us speak here. For me, with the invasion, everything changed quite drastically, and I had to leave my hometown where I was born and where I had started being an artist, and where I spent actually first 3 months of war. I still have my family there, and now I talk from the perspective of a displaced refugee artist, which cannot, not influence who I am and my art. So it's changed quite a lot, and there is no, 100% clear perspective of how the world will be for me in even the next months. It started to be very difficult to plan anything.
Of course. I'll ask you more about the future, and I know I'm putting you all in the spot here because it is a difficult situation to put into words. But Vik, what about you? Do you remember where you were back in February 24, 2022? And what have been the hardest moments of these past 3 years?
Of course, Annelies. Yeah, I remember because it was a traumatic, period in life of many Ukrainians, of all Ukrainians. And I've been in Kyiv from the beginning of the full-scale invasion, and I'm still there. I mean, besides the shock, I felt this, really like the profound apathy when doing art. The art felt like it's not the main thing now. When it comes to survival. So, but little by little, you try to make your way through. You have to. What I learned is that you have to adapt. I think that's the important word for this. You have to adapt to this.
It is very difficult to adapt to, isn't it? You guys are all going to tell me more about that. But Irina, can I ask you the same? How has the war affected you personally?
I met the war in Lviv, so I guess it wasn't as stressful for the people who were in the east part of Ukraine, or but it was still first couple of days. It was like so much stress because of the unknown, because you don't know like how if they can like bring a bomb on us, like in the next minutes or whatever. At first, it was like apathy as well, but in a couple of days what changed it was this amazing unity of people, that there was like a lot of volunteering activities that put my mind off the fact that there is a war that much, because I could feel that I'm united with my own people from different cities. The fact that volunteering is still going on, of course, but it was such a like force that you can see that together with your own people, you can withstand it. Like, it was really powerful.
Yulia, what about you? How has this war shaped your life recently?
Yes, of course. I remember the beginning of the war was very scary for me and my family. Though still I was in Lviv, and I decided to go to Poland for some time, for a couple of months. But then I realized that I have to be at home. I have to do anything I can do for people, to help people in the way I can do it. So I returned and started working as a psychotherapist, music therapist, with different categories of the population. And yeah, it's hard to realize that a lot of friends, a lot of people that I knew are there on the board, on the front.
On the front lines.
Front line, yes, and some of them are injured or even dead. It's very sad, and this is something that is really hard to realize still.
Yeah, and I imagine that it's also hard to come to an anniversary like this, right? 3 years on. Olia, you mentioned how the war has obviously impacted you as a person, but also the work that you do. And there is this particularly touching clip of a piece that you did. I want to play it to our viewers and then get you to explain a little bit more. Take a look. These sirens, I mean, once you hear them, you can't really forget them, can you? Was it part of your desire here to really document this moment, this feeling, this fear?
It wasn't a desire, it was a necessary thing to do to just stay sane and not to, lose your mind. Like, the artist is who I am. I do art to reflect on things, to communicate my feelings, and that's what I began to do, and to share with people how I feel through art. Like someone does it through music, someone through literature. I do like this visual art, and that was just a way to process stuff, but also to, share with people the emotions and kind of solidarize, because the things we feel, they are very similar, like varying from experience to experience, but in general are similar. And to share them, it was just the like way not to feel alone in this, and to feel kind of like there are people around who share the same things that you do, who are as scared as you are, who are as angry as you are. And like through art, like what artists can do, they can express these feelings. They could put in the words or in the images, and like in a very touching, emotional way. So that's why, I mean, it worked for me.
Yeah, I was extremely touched, because I remember seeing children doing exactly that in the metro stations around Kyiv, just putting their hands and singing to themselves not to hear those sirens in an attempt to fight the fear, I guess. Vic, you said something that also touched me a lot, and you mentioned this again, that the start of the war really made you question your work and your passion for art. You said that you felt almost depressed, and that your work actually helped you to get back on your feet. Out of that came a project that you are still working on under the provisional title of Hell Was Full. Can you tell us more about this project?
Yes, the project Hell Was Full is the portrait project of Ukrainian defenders, of the soldiers, paramedics, any military people with whom I met and photographed them for this project. So it's still ongoing. But you're showing now my previous project, which I did actually at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, which is called Epitome. I made this book. It's published already last year, and that was the project that that actually touched the war too. You know.
And in this particular project that you've been working on now, there was this one image that stuck with us. You went into people's homes, and there is this one shot of that gun there lying on the bed. This is part of an intimate space for someone, right? And you were talking to people that were coming and going from front lines. How difficult was it to convince them to let you do this work? They were probably tired, right? Had seen and gone through so much. Was that the most difficult part?
Absolutely.
To actually approach them and get them to let you in?
Well, actually, the difficult part is to arrange all the meetings, because like military people is very, very, fast, and they should be like at 5 in the morning tomorrow somewhere, So it's kind of, that was one of the biggest challenges of this project. But yeah, I mean, I started this project from my friends that fight on the front lines. So it was kind of a, like the soft entrance into this project. And then little by little, I started to photograph other people, other soldiers.
And what many people might not know about Ukraine and Ukrainian soldiers is that they come from all walks of lives, right? Because they were doctors before, or I don't know, painters or mechanics. They weren't necessarily trained to be military. And because of the invasion, they were just called to join the army, and many have responded. Irina, your husband, I believe, has also been fighting. He's joined the army And you also said that the war has made you question whether to continue working with music in the midst of something so grave and urgent. Eventually, you incorporated some of these conflicted feelings into your work. And there's this one particular song that you recorded that caught our attention. I wanted our viewers to take a listen. It's quite upbeat, right? But it speaks about something very dark, which is the experience of war. Can you tell us about the importance of conveying this message like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my friend Biel from Lithuania, who I recorded this song together with, she suggested that we do something together because Lithuanians like feel us really well, and like they have a similar story to Ukraine in, you know, when they were getting in their independence, and they, you know, they feel it. So why we decided to do it upbeat is because the world becomes more and more tired of Ukraine. So we thought, okay, we have to entertain people somehow to get them to listen to the message. So with this came this idea of like upbeat music with a serious message. So it's like it becomes a bit sarcastic, and it's like actually quite weird to listen to such upbeat music with this sad message, and it creates the you know, feeling of conflict inside the song itself. But we felt that if it is fun and people start dancing to it and then listening to the words, then it would create conflict in themselves, so that it would get them to maybe like listen to us and to be more interested in what's happening in Ukraine, because it was in August 2022 when people already started being tired of the news in Ukraine. So now it's even worse.
And it puts you guys in a very difficult situation, obviously, because not only you're going through an invasion, you also have to convince people to remember you and to remember your plight. And I think by now, everybody is fully aware of how important it is, the work that you do in terms of conveying that message, in terms of building some bridges and creating empathy. Yulia, can you tell us about the importance of art through traumatic processes such as war, displacement, and how we can help cope with the stress, but also heal?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can say that with the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the people's level of anxiety, panic attacks, and different feelings of fear increased significantly. And I can say that music in particular and art in general can really help people to cope with such strong, different hard feelings. You know, I mean, I work mostly with music, and I can say that music and art in general has this direct access to our unconsciousness.
When you're working with music, how effective do you see? Do you have like, I don't know, some stories of patients that you saw actually kind of come back? And because obviously you're still in the midst of the trauma, right? It's not like the trauma has ended. You're still experiencing all this stress.
Yeah, sometimes it's really hard to work because people are very vulnerable, and you know, you have to work just feeling the level of their feelings. And I can say that singing, for example, helps very much. You know, as like a mother sings a lullaby to her child and the child starts calming down, the music in adulthood sometimes works the same way. People start calming their excessive emotions, you know, and they start feeling this belonging to the community. They feel that they are understood, and they know that sometimes they have to find new meanings, because I have experience working with different categories of people, and some of them were, for example, injured, or some of them lost their homes or lifestyle. And it is really hard to find new meaning of this life, because, we have to admit that some of them cannot live the way they lived before
Absolutely.
the full.
Many people have lost everything, right? Not only property, but loved ones, and it's very difficult to come back from that. I wanted to get a sense from all of you, where to from here? I mean, many of the people I met in Ukraine while reporting during the war, who I asked about the future, often told me this one thing about the future being on hold. Olya, you just mentioned something very similar at the start of the show, and you posted another piece that you worked on Instagram, and it's a very powerful piece. I will not try to say it in Ukrainian there, but it translates as faith, hope, and weapon. A play on words from a saying that basically conveys that all people need is faith, hope, and love. You said Ukrainians have been forced to replace love with weapons, and that hope was also being taken away. Pretty soon, you would be only left with faith. Are you worried about what comes next?
Yes, of course. I'm worried, especially in the light of the recent events about like all these peace talks or whatever, because Ukrainians obviously don't just want the war to stop, but the war to stop in a proper way, so that we don't have a war again in a year or in two, in a larger scale. We just want peace and justice. And yeah, like the recent events bring us really a lot of anxiety, but at the same time, I don't see, at least in my bubble, among my friends, among my family, among other people whom I know, this thought that we should give up, we should accept all the ceasefire under any circumstances. No, like, because everyone knows that if we surrender, it will end up things for us forever, and there won't be like any independent country as Ukraine, and I, for example, won't have any place to come back, really, even if it like my city is not destroyed. It will, if it's occupied by Russia, it will be like worse than destroyed, I would say.
You touch on very important points there in terms of justice, accountability, for there to be peace. And I imagine that this is shared by many of our panelists here today as well. But I wanted, because we're almost out of time, I wanted Vic and Irina to also weigh in. I just wanted a sense of you guys in terms of where to from here. Irina, you mentioned so many other competing crises. What do you expect? What do you hope for Ukraine?
I just hope that people realize that, the war is still happening and that we still need help, and that we wouldn't, of course, we will try to fight ourselves, but it's too complicated for us to fight Russia off by ourselves. And there is a really nice message that says that if Russia stops fighting, the war will stop. But if Ukrainians stop fighting, Russia will occupy Ukraine and move forward to Europe. So I just hope that, it's not only us who wants it, the peace, and together with justice, only together with justice and accountability. Not only us, but Europe supports us, I hope.
Vic, final word from you.
Irina just said like what from top of my mind, like Ukraine didn't start this war, war could be ended if Russia just pulls its forces back. So just the message that Ukraine still needs support, in this critical year.
Vic, Irina, Olya, and Yulia, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being part of the stream today. And thank you all for tuning in. Do stay in touch with us on social media. Use the hashtag or the handle AJStream for that. Take care, and I'll see you soon.